Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck. Alright, today we are going to do another episode of Bytes and Nibbles with Breck. Now that can be a little challenge when we're in a world of shortages like we are at the grocery store these days. I knew I wanted to kind of do a recipe vlog because I haven't done one in a while. And so, today is a good day. It's kind of rainy out, so it's a good day to kind of be inside doing something. But I knew this was also going to be a challenge just because I didn't want to do anything complicated and not be able to find all the ingredients. And in the world we're in right now, that was going to be a realistic consideration. I decided during the live stream today that I was going to try and do some brownies that I've made before. And it's a real simple recipe, and I was thinking, okay, well, I ought to hopefully be able to find all the ingredients for that at the grocery store. Turns out I had most of the stuff that I needed, but what I needed was some chopped pecans, I needed some baker's chocolate, and I needed some sugar, and I needed some frosting. Well, the baker's chocolate and the pecans weren't a problem to find, and even the frosting wasn't a problem to find, but I had to actually go shopping around a little bit to try and find the sugar. I have a little bit of sugar, but the recipe calls for about 2 cups, and I didn't have that much. So I ended up going to H-E-B. They didn't have the sugar. They had plenty of like powdered sugar, but they didn't have any of the granulated stuff. So on the way home, I kind of hit a Target, and turns out they had it. So, we're going to be able to go forward with that. It was interesting, when I was actually at H-E-B, I ran into one of my neighbors, well, a couple of my neighbors, they're roommates, and they live a couple buildings down. And I was kind of talking to them a little bit about how I was trying to find some sugar and hadn't been able to. And turns out after I got home, they showed up at the front door and they had some sugar for me. So, that's just another example of, the kind of people there are around here. They heard that I needed some sugar. I told them I wanted to make some brownies and was unable to find sugar, and they found some sugar for me. Well, in the end, I ended up telling them, yeah, I went over to Target and found some, and so we're in good shape. But, I just thought that was kind of an interesting story. So anyway, let's get going with some brownies. So these are the ingredients that we're going to need for our brownies. It's going to start off with some sugar, which I managed to find at Target. I always add a little bit of frosting to the top of it, just a personal choice. You can do it or not if you don't want. A little butter or margarine, some eggs, some unsweetened baker's chocolate, 4 ounces of it, some vanilla extract, some chopped pecans, and some flour. Now it turns out the recipe for these brownies can be found just on the inside of the baker's chocolate package. And it's just called Baker's One Bowl Brownies. And so this is basically what I'm going to do right here. I'll include this recipe in the comments section below. But yeah, this is where you ever need it. So if you're ever looking for it, this is where you find it. I actually learned about this. One of the women at Disney who was really famous for bringing really delectable treats for potlucks and stuff like that at Disney, used to make these all the time. And it took me a long time to get her to actually admit where the recipe came from, because I really liked her brownies, but like I said, I couldn't get her to tell me specifically where she got the recipe, or give me the recipe itself. Well, this is where it is. So if you get a chance, just go buy the unsweetened Baker's brand chocolate, and it's just right there on the inside. Now the instructions specifically say take a 9x13 baking pan and line it with foil, and then put some cooking spray on the foil just to make it separate easy. I've never actually done it that way, but they claim that that's a good way to do it because it makes it easy to get the brownies out of the pan. So we're actually going to try it this way. And so basically I've just taken some aluminum foil, coated lined the 9x13 pan, and now I'm just going to spray it with a little cooking spray. I can sort of see the advantage of doing it this way. So there we go, that's the first step. Alright, next what I've done is I've taken 3/4 cup of margarine and the chocolate and put it just into a glass jar here, and we're going to microwave that on high for 2 minutes until it melts the whole concoction. And once we're out of the microwave, just kind of stir everything together until it's until there's no more lumps in it. Now I'm using a napkin to handle the glass because the glass is a little hot, as you might expect it coming out of the microwave and all. I have now transferred my chocolate and margarine concoction into my mixer, and now I'm going to stir in or mix in 2 cups of sugar and my eggs and my vanilla. So let's start that. And now I'm going to mix in 3 eggs and 1 teaspoon of vanilla, just to kind of mix it all in here. Just speed it up a little bit to get all the gunk out of the inside there, because that's still in there a little bit. I'm also going to kind of get in there with a rubber scraper because I got a little bit of the chocolate mix on the side of the bowl here. There we go, that's getting better. That's starting to look like what we're looking for. And then I'm going to mix in a cup each of chopped pecans and flour. And we're just going to kind of slowly mix them in. And mix it until it's just all well nice and blended. And then what I did is I actually stopped it for a moment and went at it with a rubber scraper on the edge just to push everything off the side. But I think that's about ready to go. Next step now is just to pour it into the pan. All right, now we're just going to pour our mixture in here. Using the rubber scraper to get everything out of there, because let's face it, we want every last drop of this. Get it all off of there. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I'll keep mentioning it. You know, right at the beginning of the instructions, they say preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Now, I usually wait till a little later in the process because when I'm preparing these things and setting up shots and filming things like that, it takes a little longer to prepare these than it would if you do this for normal. So I just preheat the oven for 350 degrees, and we'll be ready to do that in a couple minutes. But normally, if you follow the directions to the letter, you'll preheat the oven before you do any of the rest of that stuff. All right, our oven is now preheated to 350 degrees, and we are going to put our brownie mix inside of it and cook it for between 30 and 35 minutes. I'm going to start at 30 minutes because you can always cook it longer. You can't always cook it shorter. All right, so 30 minutes is up. It actually was 35 minutes. We're gonna pull this out. Looks pretty good, right? Now let it cool off for a little while, maybe an hour or so. Then I'll be able to use the aluminum foil to kind of pull it out of the pan, and then we'll frost it. All right, so we've allowed this to cool off a little bit. Now I'm just gonna transfer it out of the pan here onto this cooking sheet here so that we can basically frost it. All right, then it's just a matter of putting the frosting on it. And it's kind of easier to do this if you kind of get it out of the pan, because then you don't end up getting frosting all over the side of the pan. Now I know when I finish up a recipe, I usually do a taste test on camera for you. I'm not actually going to do that this time because, hey, let's face it, I've done these before. I know these things rock. So that's how easy it is to make these brownies. Like I said, the frosting on the top was optional. You can do that or not do that if you wish. But I will put the recipe down below in the description of the video if you can try that, and let me know what you think. So anyway, I think that's all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.